Patreon Q&A number 105. I want to thank all 126 of my amazing patrons. Guys, thank you so much for continuing to support me the way that you have been. And to everyone else listening, there's going to be spoilers for all the series that I'm going to be talking about, so tread carefully. Beowolf asks, what's up, show? Got my blast shirt in the mail the other day. Hey, that's awesome, Beowolf. Thank you again for buying it. You're one of the lucky few to actually get it because it is no longer available, but I do have new merch available for the fall season. To anyone who's interested, you can see it below this video. But for the question is, if Tatsumaki tried to take over the world, how would the Hero Association react, and would she become disaster level god? So, yeah, I mean, I don't see why not. I mean, like in the webcomic, I forget the chapter. I think it's like sometime after the Monster Association arc. Like Tatsumaki is kind of having like a cold beef with the Hero Association. And they say that like if she keeps, getting out of line or something, we'll straight up, classify her as a disaster level dragon. So, I mean, they will do it. I mean, of course, she'll start out as a dragon, and they, will make a pariah out of her somewhat. I mean, I guess they feel confident enough to be able to take her down, but, like, what would happen? I mean, it would ultimately come down to, of course, Blast having to step in order to take her out, or maybe we would see Metal Knight possibly even step up and we'd see his full potential. You would really need individuals like that outside of Saitama to deal with somebody like Tatsumaki, at least at this point. I mean, we don't know the full extent of Drive Knight or the organization yet, but I think it's safe to say that it's either going to have to be Metal Knight or Blast in order to take her down, because I think she could solo pretty much everyone else in the Hero Association at this point. I mean, we're seeing glimpses of her full power currently in the manga, and it's truly insane. Like, she's, destroying or can destroy a city with like one attack, seemingly. So that's like easily, in my opinion, what could be considered a very close to disaster level god, if anything could be. And, that was just like the cusp of it. I'm sure if she was like really hell-bent on taking down the Earth, she could do a lot more than that, especially considering that Murata, take that for what you will, said that she could, quote-unquote, easily lift Z City, which seems like she could, considering that she did like that twister thing and, the lifting of the rocks to stopping the tsunami and all that craziness. She would be closer to God, at least registered and seen by individuals. Not talking about Boros. That, the series has come across at this point. So, yeah, I mean, pretty much she would be God. And for your second question, would Daedric Genos be able to defeat Elder Centipede? Man, it's really hard to say. I mean, maybe. I don't know, like, how he would do, like, in combat-wise, like, physical combat. But as for, like, his, his blast, his true spiral incineration cannon or whatever, I mean, maybe it could take him down. I mean, it is strong enough to compete with, pretty much above dragon level power, pseudo god power almost with what we saw of Sairochi. So, I mean, it wasn't, blasting it away, but it was like, repelling it, and it was able to beam struggle with her. So would that be enough to stop Elder Centipede, considering that, like, his, EC form stuff wasn't able to really do much except kind of just, make him bothered somewhat, I suppose. I don't know. Then he claims that it could destroy the meteor, which is pretty darn impressive. So maybe he could. It's super hard to say, though. BetaHunter asks, what if Dr. Genius or Drive Knight found hardly breathing Boros on the spaceship? So Drive Knight possibly could turn him into a cyborg, given that he is very likely a cyborg himself. Video coming soon on that. And we have seen other people in the organization that are somewhat cyborgs, too. I mean, like the one brain robot, his name is the Brain Robot, so he has a brain. So it's possible that they could just, like, back engineer him into being their servant and, like a cyborg in himself. Or they just, break him down and make him into, like, some kind of, or they just remove whatever makes his abilities work, and they integrate it into some technological aspect of them, possibly. So I'm sure they would maybe try to do something like that with the Boros. I mean, that's the most logical thing at this point until we further see what Drive Knight and the organization are capable of with that kind of stuff. And then Dr. Genius, I think, would just kind of replicate him. Rather than, like, try to bring him back to life, he would just see what makes him tick and then just break that down and then, like, make a new Boros, like kind of what you said, something like that. As he asks, what do you think the future of Moomin Rider is? I feel like he'll be the next Saitama. Considering he keeps pushing himself to the brink of death, it's not feasible that he could easily eventually become a major character. What are your thoughts? I mean, Moomin Rider is kind of a major character. He does get focused on more so than most, I suppose. I mean, at least he was. I mean, now he's kind of just, been regulated to ancillary. But I don't think his purpose in this series is to be anything special other than just representing what, like, pure altruism is. Like, there's, a lot of characters on the spectrum in this series, and he falls on the very far end of, altruistic and stuff like that. Almost to like a psychotic degree. And I just think that's what he represents. I don't think he's ever going to get a power up or any kind of divine intervention, or maybe he could, of course. I mean, it's not off the table, but I just don't think it's likely for him. I think he's kind of just always going to just be somewhat of a symbol of what that is. I don't think he's going to like become like a Saitama or get like any kind of Zenkais or anything like that. He'll just always be that dude who's like there to help or just be fearless and fight anyone just, to be a hero, I guess. Okay, Baldie asks, I want to know your opinion on what devil fruit is the most wasted on its user, not including Enel. Yeah, I mean, he is the top candidate for that for sure. But, I mean, pretty much like the other Logia users who aren't, like, super powerful, like Monet. I mean, she's not weak, but man, Monet's Snow Logia, I think, is wasted on her. Especially now that she's pretty much dead and Punk Hazard is like gone, so I guess the snow fruit is gone too. I mean, maybe the quote-unquote the devil incarnation within it traveled away from Punk Hazard and went to another place and inhabited another fruit. So maybe somebody else will become a Snow Logia. But I don't know, just that fruit just seemed so powerful. It would have just been better if it was like on like maybe like a Yonko Commander or something like that. Crusader Days Vault asks, Zoro from One Piece versus Awakened Garo. So we haven't seen post-time skip Zoro's full potential yet. I mean, we will soon, considering, we're getting into the nitty-gritty of the Wano War. And also, Awakened Garo hasn't been in the manga yet, so it's hard to say. But, I mean, Zoro doesn't have any kind of speed feats close to what Awakened Garo does. So, I mean, I think it's easy to say Zoro would probably lose at this point, especially, considering how we saw Awakened Garo deal with Atomic Samurai. I'm sure people will disagree, and that's fine. Just compare it for yourself. I don't know. And then Aka Inu, who in the One Punch Man world would be able to defeat him besides Tatsumaki, Saitama, King of Blast? I think Metal Knight could. I mean, based on his full potential. Flashy Flash, maybe. I mean, it's really hard to say with Aka Inu and, like, other Logias from One Piece and stuff like that, because it's like, oh, they're intangible and they don't have hockey and blah. It's like, yeah, I get it. I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, you would just need like the overwhelmingly powerful characters to be able to deal with somebody like him, because he is, one of the strongest characters in One Piece. Delamante asks, what if Itachi were to fight all the S-class heroes one by one gauntlet style with full regen in between the fights? It's really hard to say with this too, because I don't know how they would be able to deal with genjutsu and stuff like that, since that's obviously going to be what he's predominantly is going to be going against with these individuals. So maybe the stronger ones would be able to break out of the genjutsus and stuff like that, like the bangs, the Flashy Flash possibly, but I really doubt Itachi is as fast as Flashy Flash or as strong as Silver Fang, or would be able to deal with the overwhelming might of like Metal Knight or Tatsumaki or somebody like that. But maybe he could take down the lower S-class heroes. Like, I could see somebody like Metal Bat and Tank Top Master like just straight up getting done in by like the Tsukuyomi or something like that. But it's hard to see him defeating the stronger ones. I mean, it's ultimately up to you to decide, because there's no way to say for sure how, his chakra stuff would interact with the One Piece world. Derek asks, who do you got between Prime All Might and Prime All For One versus Blast and Meteoric Burst Boros? So a recurring theme for this Q&A is going to be, it's hard to say. I have no idea, because we have three hypothetical characters here. We don't truly know how powerful Prime All Might, Prime All For One, and Blast are. Meteoric Burst Boros, we know for sure. And I, based off of my assumptions, which, rub some people the wrong way, whatever. Prime All Might probably stronger than Meteoric Burst Boros, or at least minimum on his level, possibly, and then Primal for one has to be up there too because he competed against the Primal Might and injured him, even though he caught him off guard with the emotional manipulation. I don't know. I mean, so hard to say. I don't know. Maybe Primal Might and Primal for one could possibly take it. I mean, we really need to see feats from Blast first. Dino W asks, do you think Moral will survive his fight with Goku? This is a little worrying because I think that if Goku was really going to like wrap up his fight with Moro, they would have did it in this chapter, but it kind of concerns me like the way that the chapter ended. Like with him under the rock, pretty much beaten. It always comes to this, like Goku can just defeat the enemy, but he doesn't. It's just kind of frustrating. And then he rips his shirt off. He's like, I'm going to fight him as a Earthling or whatever he says. So it seems like there's probably going to be some trickery or something. Like Moro is going to do something or somebody's going to do something and then Goku's going to drop the ball. I mean, I hope not, but I think it would be really cool if Goku just straight up executes Moro. But that seems just too good to be true. So I would say expect some shenanigans with Moro maybe getting away from this, unless Beerus and Whis decide to intervene, which they have before. And then as for your second question, what disaster level would you give the Wind guy that Homelander fought? He seems like a tiger at this point. I mean, we only really got 1 feat from him, which was, you know, impressive, but it didn't strike me as like a demon. I mean, maybe he could be a demon if we saw more of him, but he's got to be like high tiger at least. Emad S asks, do you see the future of the series going into DBS style where there's only a few characters that could be relevant in an actual fight? I mean, it's already kind of getting to that point, I suppose, but I don't think one is going to leave all of his characters in the dust and make them irrelevant. I mean, he's a much better writer than that. We are going to see quite a few characters rise to the occasion and unlock their potentials. I definitely do see that happening. Like, I thought it was going to happen sooner with Tank Top Master, but maybe needs to be in the oven to bake a little bit more. But the characters are going to be significant in their own way. Not everybody has to defeat a dragon because, I mean, yeah, dragons are still relevant. I mean, they are still super powerful as we saw recently in the webcomic, but there's going to be like other things that other characters that can do that they're not quite on that power scale. I mean, there's always going to be only a few characters that could deal with the top threats, you know, like the Tatsumakis, the Saitamas, Flashy Flash, you know, guys like that will only be able to defeat the Awakened Garos and the other big bads of the arc, but the lesser threats, they will be significant in their own way, and they will be taken down by characters who maybe have a misleading significance to them. I do have faith in this with one. I don't think he's going to do the series dirty like that. And then I don't think that Jones necessarily deserves an immediate title shot over Stipe, but from a business sense, he absolutely does, because Jones versus Stipe obviously will sell way more than Ngannou's rematch with him. But, I mean, yeah, Ngannou has a crazy win streak right now at heavyweight, and he absolutely deserves it. But Jones, I really don't know what he's going to do, and, I mean, I don't know. We'll see what happens. FallingFireX asks, what kind of psychic powers would you like to see more of? I would like to see more of the energy manipulation stuff that, like, Psychos was doing when she was shooting the lasers out of her eyes. I think that's super fascinating. But aside from that, I'd also see I'd like to see like Genjutsu stuff or whatever Phoenix Man was doing, the Child Emperor. Like, I'm sure that has to do something with the Esper abilities, because it all kind of falls under an umbrella within One Punch Man. At least it seems like it does. So it's those two things that I'd really like to be explored upon, and I think they will, because I'm pretty sure that God probably has like the highest tier of power within those two respective things. Free T-shirts asked, yo, Shonen, couldn't think of a question, unfortunately. So how's your week going? Hey, honestly, it's going pretty great. I really can't complain about anything. Everything is good, and it just keeps getting better. I am truly fortunate to be able to live the life that I do, and I hope everything is good for you as well, Free T-shirts, and to everyone else listening, even the people who despise me. I legitimately mean that. I don't have to say it. There's no, like, fake this to this. I really do wish the best for everyone. So yeah, guys, go out there and get it. GardenShed asks, hey, Shona, wasn't sure what to ask this week, but some of my friends are trying to get into D&D, so I thought I'd ask, have you ever tried it? If so, you got any recommendations for someone trying to get into the hobby? Yeah, I played a bit of it when I was in high school. So if you're just trying to get into this hobby with your friends, make the D&D centered around like something that you're all into. Like, let's just say, for example, like One Punch Man. You could just make it a One Punch Man D&D, and then go online and look for like a standard like rules set or like a base for a D&D like setup. I mean, there's some online, and then just print out the instructions or the rules or something. Just, one sheet, or if you need multiple, and then just make sure everybody brings like a notebook or something so they could just write down their stats and everything like that, and then just buy like a set of die that are like, I don't know, $8 or something like that. You really don't need a lot to have a really good time. And like I remember spending hours all night playing it with my friends, and we just had a blast. Geruda asks, hey Shonen, do you think that Kuma's devil fruit is over or underrated? I would say neither. I think it's right where it should be, at least according to the community. It seems to be universally respected, as it should be. It's easily one of the strongest paramecias. I'm quite fascinated with the fruit, especially how variable it is, the versatility to it. It's pretty crazy, and I just wish that we got to see more of it, or just at least got to see Kuma fight somebody who actually was going to push him, because he kind of never really got to that point in the series before he was just completely nerfed. Helplessness asks, hey there, show, new to this whole Patreon thing. For my first question, who would win in an angry off between Bakugo, Metal Bat, and Vegeta? Wow, difficult to say. I mean, they all are very angry in their own way, and for, various reasons. Bakugo from his insecurities, Vegeta from his insecurities as well, I suppose, but Metal Bat, the verdict's still out on him. We need more development on him, but I'm sure some of it comes from insecurities too, possibly. I would say that maybe Vegeta, considering that he's, inherently angry due to being a Saiyan. They kind of have, that aggressiveness to them. So, I mean, we're talking about Vegeta from DBZ, of course. I mean, in DBS, he's completely domesticated, but maybe Vegeta, but it would be close. These are all pretty angry guys. Kohler R asks, could full power Tatsumaki give Boros the rush he was looking for? I know what you're talking about, but I also know what you're talking about, Kohler, considering that it's you. I would say yes. I mean, I don't see why not. She's twisting up cities and, stopping tsunamis. She has insane power. So, yeah, I definitely think that she could give Boros that rush. Maybe even push him to Meteoric Burst. I don't think that's too unrealistic to think. L asks, what if Carnage Kabuto went against all of the A, B, and C class heroes, excluding Amai and Saitama? It would just be a slaughter. There's nothing that they could do. Even if they all work together, maybe if they all planned somehow, maybe things would change, but I really don't see what they could do. I mean, like, Carnage Kabuto no-diffed a demon like Genos multiple times, and then like he blew away his incineration cannon or his blast with just like his breath. I mean, there's like nothing that they could do. It would just be lambs to the slaughter. Legandaryus asks, hey Shonen, how do you think Luffy would save Vivi when he finds out she's being held captive by the world government? Would it be Marineford 2.0 or saving Robin 2.0? So we don't exactly know what's going on with Vivi yet. Now that you bring that up, I'm super intrigued in that storyline once again, because, we kind of went away from it after finding out that something happened with the Nefertiti family at the Reverie, and that's the whole Sabo thing. I hope that we get back to it, but also, we got to deal with Wano, which I'm, still interested in. But let's just say hypothetically she was being captive. Yeah, they would do the whole Robin going after Eni's lobby thing. But I think if that were to happen, it would kind of interrupt the story. Like, they need to continue on into the new world. They need to go to Lodestar. They need to go to Elbaf. Like them, and they need to, figure out where the last poneglyph is, the road poneglyph. So, like, them having to backtrack all the way to Marineford and then save Vivi would just defer from the story even more. But, aside from all of that stuff, it would definitely be an Eni's Lobby type raid. And it would be Marineford 3.0. Marshal asks, what's the future for the Ninja Leader and the Cruel Dragon? Cruel Dragon, I think you're maybe the only person who's ever asked about him, possibly. I don't think he's coming back. Pretty sure he's dead for good, and I think he was only included just for that one sequence to ultimately be somewhat of a gag for the most part, but also maybe kind of like a subtle world builder. I mean, it did give us more info into like the quote unquote mythology, I guess, of the One Punch Man world, gave us more insight into what could be considered magic or something. Like, the verdict's still out on what's going on with the Cruel Dragon and his whole storyline and all that stuff, but regardless, I don't think he's coming back at all. I mean, maybe whatever was involved with him could be included in the future of the story, but he himself, probably not. And as for the ninja leader, he could come back. I mean, he's like Schrodinger's ninja leader at this point. We don't know if he's dead or alive. But I mean, maybe he comes back and maybe Sonic and Flashy Flash take him on or something, or maybe he's included in a future plot line, or maybe Blast has something to do with it in the future. It's more likely that he comes back than the Cruel Dragon. Mr.Awsome asked, if Eneru obtained the gold fruit, would he become Yonko level? No. I mean, yeah, he would be more impressive considering what he was doing with the gold on the ship and his fruit ability. I mean, he could do some crazy stuff. Like, he can become what Gran Tesoro from the movie, that at the end he becomes that big mech thing. He could do some crazy stuff like that, considering he was pushing his Logia fruit already to that limit. And then, combined with his, Rumble powers, it would be insane. But I still don't think it would be Yonko level because he still is not a master of hockey. I mean, he has good observation hockey, but he had no armament. And definitely didn't have Conquerors, even though it's not a prerequisite to be Yonko. But they all seem to have it at this point, aside from, I guess, Kaido. Maybe he has it, maybe he doesn't. But he would really need to master observation and armament hockey before he started to approach Yonko level, because then he would just get dominated by those who have that advantage on him. Second question, could Captain Celebrity solo the top 10 Billboard heroes? I don't think so. Now, granted, it would be competitive because he's way stronger than all of them individually. There's no doubt about that. But I think if they all work together, they could probably defeat him. I mean, we've got Endeavor in there. And if you want to go off of them not being dead or nerfed, we got Hawks, Best Genus, Edgeshot, Mirko, Crust, Kamui Woods, Wash, Yoroi Musha. We don't know anything about him. And Ryukyu. I think that, though, all of them working together enough could definitely take down Captain Celebrity. But like I said, no easy task. Natedawg asked, do you think Drive Knight has a contingency plan for every S-Class hero? I mean, somewhat. He has limited information on all of them for sure. Some of them more than others. Like, he has the information on Atomic Samurai from G5 and stuff like that. And, other heroes, if you go through the story. But all of them definitely doesn't. Like Blast, for example, he was trying to get information on him. So he knows nothing about Blast. Therefore, he could have no contingency plan. Same thing for Metal Knight. He has limited information on him as well. But, I mean, more so than others, I suppose. But, I mean, on the surface, what he knows about them on the surface, just like, anybody looking through the hero database or anything could, I'm sure he's formulated something to some degree. I mean, that definitely fits right into Drive Knight's wheelhouse. Parkhertruck asks, what would a power stockpiling quirk even look like before being fused with the One for All passing on quirk? We don't ever see Deku or All Might stockpile anything, only them using vast amounts of power that I suppose it had already been stockpiled. I'm quite confused still. Maybe you can help. So it's, as the name implies, it stockpiles power. So it's like a slow burn kind of thing. So when All for One like forcefully put it into his brother, it was kind of, I guess, just at level 0 possibly. I mean, there's such little information on this quirk, honestly. It's barely ever explained in the actual canon of the series. So we're kind of just led to believe that, like, maybe it started off at 0 because we don't know if All for One had the power already, accrued into it, or where he got it from when it was accrued. But it just takes your unused energy and allows you to use it, when you need to or whatever. So it wasn't nearly as powerful as it was before, it was passed on, of course. And a lot of this power stockpiling kind of happens off panel. And it's also heavily implied that All Might is really the one that made it as broken as it is through whatever kind of training he did. It was amplified beforehand, but, like I said, All Might was the one that really make it the busted thing that was capable of defeating All for One eventually. So it's kind of just the stronger you get, the stronger the quirk gets, I suppose. Samurai asks, I was wondering who would win between Gigantomachia and Goketsu. Good question. We haven't really seen Gigantomachia struggle. I mean, he kind of struggled, I guess, against 1A, 1B, and the ancillary heroes that were trying to stop him from moving. But I mean, like I'm saying, like in a fight, like, you know, against somebody on the caliber of Goketsu, like an All Might or, you know, somebody like that. So I would be interested to see how he deals with that. But it seems like he could probably take some shots from Goketsu, but he doesn't seem as fast as him, and he's definitely not as skilled as him. So I would give the win to Goketsu, but I don't think it would be a complete stomp. Like, I think Goketsu, you know, it would be somewhat competitive, I suppose, but Goketsu would just be too fast, too skilled, and you know, those shots that he would land on him would definitely hurt him. But if Gigantomachia hit Goketsu, I'm sure he can hurt him. Steven asks, what is the future of Drive Knight and Orochi? So I don't think that Drive Knight is going to dissect like Orochi. I don't think he's going to get like Orochi himself. He kind of just said he was getting a sample collection. So I think that he's just going to fly by Cyrochi's jet or whatever, or, you know, whatever's going to happen with that. He's gonna, like, I don't know, stick like a needle or something out, you know, of his jet or whatever, and then just get like a little piece of his flesh, and then he's gonna collect that and then analyze it. I don't think it's really gonna go any further than that. Like, as soon as he gets what he wants, he's gonna peace out of there. Like, I really doubt that Drive Knight's gonna stick around to fight Orochi and Psychos or something like that. But I mean, like, once he gets the information that he wants, he's just going to use that to further enhance the organization's capabilities, I suppose. I don't think they're creating monsters. I mean, they could be, but I also, you know, we don't want to connect the manga to the future webcomic because they're two different continuities at this point. I guess it's implied that the organization just captured those dragon level monsters and then released them all at once so that the suits that they gave to the Neo heroes could collect data off of the fights. It's not like they're using Orochi's monster cell ability retroactively. That just wouldn't make sense. ThighsOfZeus asks, what do you think will be the main philosophical question behind Saitama versus Blast? I mean, yeah, it could ultimately fall down to Blast saying that he doesn't want Saitama to help the heroes, but at the same time, like, Saitama's existence is good for the heroes because, you know, he stops the Awakened Garos and the Goketsus and stuff like that. I honestly think that Blast's beef with Saitama will be him being too strong. Because he'll be a threat to the earth because he's so strong. I just think that's what it's ultimately going to come down to. I mean, it could be that he just doesn't want him to do all the heavy lifting, but I think that's ultimately probably what Blast would want. You know, somebody that could just take care of everything. Even though he said don't go expecting someone to come save you. I think that was Blast's message more so for like powerful people, not just humanity as a whole. Second question, the Boros prophecy, was it fulfilled? Probably not. I mean, like, it's really hard to say at this point, you know, because Boros says that the prophecy was wrong, you were too strong. But also, like, if you really go, like, deep into the lore of the series, like, you know, as I have, it makes sense that the Alien Seer has Esper abilities, which are just available within this universe, and that he tapped into the Esper internet or whatever, you know, how we saw Shibawa and Psychos did, and the Alien Seer was able to see God, you know, on Earth, because God is, you know, connected to that stuff as well, allegedly. So he was like, oh, this guy's powerful. Hey, Boros, go fight God. I mean, it's possible that he didn't see Saitama because Saitama's not connected to the psychic internet, although it's just speculation. Wolfire54 asks, if One Punch Man was a classic shonen anime and everything was the same except it took place with Saitama trying to become one above all, who would you want his true rival to be? Definitely Garo. I think it would be super interesting if, like, it was a standard shonen, it was just, you know, Garo and Saitama from the beginning all the way till the end. And they ultimately, you know, fight off against each other. And you know, it would definitely change what the standard tropes and, you know, story structures of shonens would be, because it would be two characters that are ultimately trying to go after the same goal, and neither of them are entirely good, and they're definitely not evil as well. I mean, it's not like the good versus bad thing. It's just kind of just like two guys going the opposite routes, but ultimately trying to arrive at the same destination. I think that would be interesting. And then second question, do you think the people that abducted Tatsumaki will come back to get her and Fubuki? No, they didn't abduct Tatsumaki. Tatsumaki's parents willingly gave her to them. And in order for them to come back, they would need some serious firepower or some serious anti-Esper stuff to be able to take her down, which seems unlikely at this point. I think if anybody tries to come after Tatsumaki, it will be like the organization or somebody like that. Is it possible? Yeah, sure, but I just think it's unlikely, and I'm pretty sure Blast probably destroyed that place, and they all seem to have been killed by that monster anyway. Zapphod B asks, what if Pig God did not return to finish off Evil Natural Water? He would eventually have regenerated himself by pulling the moisture from the atmosphere, and then became, you know, his full Evil Natural Water self again, and then... They would have to call all of the heroes or the available heroes back to take him down. So, like, the reserved S-Class heroes would come back in. You know, everybody pretty much that wasn't involved in the Awakened Garo battle. So maybe we'd see Watchdog Man come in. Maybe Metal Knight. Maybe even Drive Knight would go there and just try to, you know, contain him to further the organization's agenda. What if Tank Top Master arrived to fight Deep Sea King at the same time as Puri Puri Prisoner? How would the fight go? Would they work even together? Yeah, I think Tank Top Master and Puri working together would be able to defeat at least a dehydrated Deep Sea King, which technically they would be facing at this point. I mean, it depends on how long it would go, because then it eventually starts raining. But I think it's fair to say that, like, Tank Top Master and a Puri combined effort, you know, could take him down. So that's pretty much it for the video today, guys. Once again, I want to thank all 126 of my amazing patrons, guys. It means the world to me what you're doing, so thank you again. And to everyone else, if you would like to be in next week's Q&A, just check out the Patreon. The $5 tier will give you access to this video. And if you haven't already, please subscribe as well. Have a great day. I'll see you in the next one.